So today we will move to that is the hardware software co-design and program modeling. Means whenever we have to manufacture the embedded system, first we have to clearly that is define the problem statement. For example, suppose if we want to manufacture a embedded system to that is a ticket printing machine. So here what happens in case of ticket printing machine, first we have to uh, decide what are the features of a ticket printing machine, which is the hardware to be used, software to be used in order to manufacture that ticket printing machine in the buses. So here we are going to study the general concept of hardware, software, and program modeling. So here first we have to select the model. So what does model means? Model describes the system characteristics. Means the model tells us the that is only the characteristics of the system. So it is mainly used to capture and describing the system characteristics. Here the model is a formal system consisting of objects and composition rules. So it defines the characteristics. For example, if we consider a bus ticket printing machine, in that what are the features to be what are the characteristics of that bus ticket printing machine. So in that so it first thing, it must consist of the keypad in order to enter the source and destination of the passenger, and it must print the ticket. Means it must consist of the that is a printer inside, portable printer. So next it must also store the all the information about the passengers, means all the passengers, means that is from source to destination. Like that we can characterize various characteristics of your embedded system, that is for which we use the model. Next is architecture. So architecture specifies how system is going to be implemented. So once we characterize your system, next step is having a architecture. So architecture specifies different components and interconnection between them. For example, in your bus ticket printing machine, if we consider an example, in that, so centrally I need a microcontroller for computation purpose. Okay, and also to communicate with what else it must have a keypad to accept the that is the source and destination and the number of peoples traveling, like that. And another thing is it may be printer. Okay, and another is memory system to store the information. Like that we are going to have a four components in your bus ticket printing machine, uh, with and that is a hardware part. So coming to the software part, it may have it may consist of, that is in the software, what the software actually describes the computation methodology, how your ticket printing machine is going to respond with the user. For example, your conductor is going to first press the uh, on button, power on button of your machine. So what you do next is going to print a ticket from source to destination. It will ask the source, it will ask the destination. Okay, and it will print the ticket for one particular passenger. So while printing here, while printing, what happens? So it will accept the information. Okay, it will accept the information from the conductor, and it will print the ticket according to that by predefined that is bus charges that are already stored in the system. Like that, your embedded system architecture describes the different components and interconnection between the components of the your embedded system. So various architectures are used in embedded system. So first one is control architecture, data path architecture, finite state machine data path architecture, complex instruction set architecture, reduced instruction set architecture, okay, very long instruction word computing, and parallel processing. Parallel processing involves the single instruction multiple data, multiple instruction single data architecture. So these are the various architectures we are going to study next. Then after selection of the architecture, in order to implement uh, yeah, in order to implement the that is characteristics, okay, we need the a language. The any type of the language is used, like assembly level language, high level language, or that is we can use C++ or Java based on the our requirement of your that is embedded system or application. Next, partitioning the system. So next we have to partition the requirements into hardware and software. If we consider your bus ticket printing machine, in that the hardware components are your printer, keypad, a display unit. Okay, LCD may also be required to show the what is the source and destination, and the information that is stored in the memory. Okay, like that we are going to partition between the hardware and software in your embedded system. So next we will see the architectures of the embedded systems used. First one is control architecture. Means control architecture implements the finite state machine model using a state register and two combinational logic circuits. The state register holds the present state and the combinational circuit implement the logic for the next state and output. So here control architecture, what happens is, based on the that is the control combinational logic circuits control algorithm, the next state is going to be decided. So if we you can recall your counters, so counters will be having a different state like 000. Suppose if it is a 3-bit counter 000 to 111, we have a 8 states. Based on the input given, its state changes from one state to another state. So like that, the control architecture consists of the various states which are decided by the combinational logic circuit. Next is data path architecture. So this data path architecture is mainly used in data flow graph model. Here data path means it is a different it is the channel between the input and the output in the data path. And here data path may contain the registers, counters, register files, ports, etc. So here data path architecture is a data driven, means based on the input data the output data will be calculated. So here we are going to study that next. So next is finite state machine and data path architecture. So this finite state machine data path architecture combines both control architecture with the data path architecture. So it implements controller with data path, means it contains both control logic, as well as it also contains the data path between the input and the output. So here controller generates the control input, whereas the data path processes the data, and the data path contains two types input ports, out of which one acts as a control port, and for receiving and sending control signals from the controller unit, and the second IO port interfaces with the data path with external world data path, data input output. So here the data paths are implemented using that is in a chip, and IO pins for chip acts as a data input ports for the chip resident data path. Means finite state machine data path architecture implements both. It is a combination of control architecture as well as a data path architecture. So next we have a complex instruction set architecture. So complex instruction set architecture, that is uses an instruction set representing complex operations. Means large operations are implemented using a single instruction. We have seen already the complex CISC architecture features. So it consists of that is a single instruction which performs the multiple operations. This complex instruction set architecture reduces the program memory required. Okay, memory size will be required, will be reduced, but it requires a lot of silicon. Means each complex instruction has to be implemented with the that is suitable that is logic circuit inside the your processor. Therefore the that is the density of the circuits in case of complex instruction set processor will be high. Okay, and they are very costlier also, complex instruction set computers. So therefore, and also they consume more machine cycle to execute on one instruction. So that is similar to the your complex instruction set architecture which we have studied earlier. So that architecture can also be used based on your requirement of the application. Next, the RISC architecture stands for reduced instruction set architecture. So this uses instruction set representing simple operation, and it requires execution of multiple reduced instructions to perform a complex operation. Here in RISC architecture, a single instruction is executed in one machine cycle, and it requires more RISC instruction to perform a one RISC instruction. Means many instructions are required to perform a one instruction done by the RISC architecture. So this consumes lot of memory. That is RISC instructions consumes lot of memory, but it requires less hardware. Means less silicon is required. So therefore, it's a cheaper, but requires the memory. So memory requirement is met by the proper programming. We can write a very that is optimized code in case of RISC architecture to consume less memory. So usually RISC architecture is used in embedded system because embedded systems mainly that is they are going to face a problem of shortage of the memory and shortage of the power. So therefore, power saving modes will be provided in the RISC architecture, and the that is they operate with very less memory. Usually, embedded systems will be operated for very small operations. Therefore, RISC architecture is used in embedded system. So next is VLIW architecture. So this very long instruction word architecture implements multiple functional units in the data path. So VLIW instruction packages one standard instruction per functional unit of the data path. Means, for example, if we have a digital signal processor in the execution, means we receive a say for example we receive a image, and that has to be compressed. So that is executed by a single instruction in the data path from the input to output. So these are the name itself indicates that a very long instruction word. Means that instruction, a single instruction is going to be used to define the entire processor operation. So that is how that architecture may also be used according to our requirement. Next, parallel processing architecture. So to speed up execution of the your program, parallel processing architectures are used. So parallel processing architecture is mainly used in that is there are two types of parallel processing architectures. One is SIMD, single instruction multiple data. In this, what happens is processing elements are going to be multiple processing elements are going to execute a same instruction, and it is which is under the control of a single controller. For example, we have a say four that is 8085 processors, each executing same instruction, like for example add instruction on different data. Single instruction is executed by different processors on different data. In next is multiple instruction multiple data processing. In this different instructions are executed on different processors. So here that is different five 8085 processors are going to execute the five different instruction on five different type of the data parallelly. All the data are going to be all the instructions are going to be executed. That is called as uh, multiple data multiple instruction multiple data processing. So these parallel processing increases the speed of execution of the program. Means a program is going to be divided into parts based on the data availability. If they are those parts are independent of the data, the input data, then they are executed according to the data available for the that particular code. For example, if we have a y is equal to x into y plus uh, z into c, so then xy is If xy is available, x into y is done by one processor and z into c is done by another processor. Both are added after the computation is done. Like that, the parallel execution is done in case of parallel processing operation. This is another type of architecture. So next we will move to the computational models used in your programming of embedded systems. The first computational model is data flow graph model. So this data flow graph model translates the data processing requirements into data flow graph. So this data flow graph, so here the data flow graph, what is it? The data flow graph is data driven model. Program execution is determined by data. Data flow graph operates on the data and is represented by block circle. So here we will see the diagram here. So this is the example of the data flow graph model. So in data flow graph model, the data flow graph operation is done by this circle. So in that the operation is here the addition operation, here it is subtraction operation. So minus it is, this is plus. So in order to perform a that is particular operation, like for example y is equal to x minus c and x is equal to a plus b. First x is equal to a plus b is computed. Next that is given as an input to the another operation, that is another circle, that is added with the b, no, sorry, added with the c. Okay, sorry, here x minus c. Okay, this is subtracted from the c, that gives you the y is equal to x, that is a plus b minus c. If you see the expansion of that, here the that is data path represents the data flow from the input to output, and here the input data is represented by an input arrow. So the a, so the incoming arrow to the particular circle or the block represents the input data. The output arrow represents the output data from that circle. Okay, like that we are going to that is the data flow graphs look like that. Means the data flow graph consists of a blocks containing the input arrows and output arrows, and the within the block we have a that is within the block the operation is described, okay, or defined. So that is data flow graph model. So next is the control flow graph model. So here the control flow graph model, control data flow graph model combines the conditional execution inside the your data flow graph. Okay, so the example control data flow graph model look like this. So here example is flag value is will be equal to 1 if x is equal to, if flag is equal to 1, then x value will be a plus b, else y is equal to a minus b. We have to compute. The data are here a and b. Okay, condition is flag must be equal to 1. Okay, if flag is equal to 1, so here in this control flow graph model, first the condition is checked, flag is equal to 1. If the this flag is equal to 1 is true, okay, so here it will, what does it will do is it adds the a with b. Okay, flag is equal to 1. Next here else y is equal to a minus b, the that is a is subtracted, so b is subtracted from a here, a minus b, if the flag is equal to 1 is false, means flag is equal to 0. So finally these two will reach the output of the your control data flow graph model. So here the conditions are represented using a diamond shape. So you might know that. So whenever we write a flowchart to any program, we are going to use the diamond shape symbol to for the conditions, to check any condition. So here also in control flow graph model, the conditions are represented using the diamond shape. This is control data flow graph type of a model that we can use. So these models are mainly used in programming. Okay, once hardware is decided, okay, we to implement particular logic. Okay, during programming we use this flow graph models. So next is state machine model. So this state machine model is mainly used to modeling reactive event driven embedded systems whose processing behavior depends upon the state transition. So state machine model describes the system behavior with the first one, that is it consists of the states, events, action and transition. State is representation of current situation. Events acts as a stimuli for state transition. Action represents the action activity performed by the state machine, and transition represents the movement from one state to another state. So here finite state machine is one which contains finite number of states. So here the state machine model, uh, basically it is a event driven, means your processor is going to contain consist of multiple states. To move from one state to another state, your processor or your embedded system is going to wait for an event. So this we are going to, here we are going to study three examples to understand this state machine model. So usually embedded systems are programmed using state machine model only. So first one, finite state machine for seat belt warning systems in cars. So what happens in cars is, so nowadays the seat belt is that is it is a mandatory. Here what happens is whenever a driver enters the car, okay, when he ignites the car, means when he start the car, so usually there will be a buzzer indicating that you have to wear the seat belt, okay, or you have to fasten the seat belt. So for that we can use a for that your embedded system used in the cars are going to follow this your finite state machine model. So this uh, finite state machine look like this. Initially alarm is off. It has a three states: alarm off, waiting and alarm on. Okay, so next, so how the transition from one state to another state takes place here, means whenever ignition key on, means whenever you start the car, immediately it will wait for that is say for example 10 seconds, 10 seconds to till the driver wears the seat belt. Okay, means it will wait until whether you whether you wear the seat belt, or it will be checked for 10 seconds. After the timer expires, after 10 seconds, it will turn on the alarm. Okay, so once that alarm will be turned off if you that is seat belt on, ignition key off, means if suppose you wear the seat belt or you fasten the seat belt, okay, within that 5 seconds, okay, that is the timer for alarm is 5 seconds. It will ring for 5 seconds. Within 5 seconds, if you wear the seat belt, it will be turned off. Otherwise you turn off the car, then also it will turn off. Okay, so like that it will wait for 5 seconds after you turn on the car. So if you wear the seat belt, alarm will be turned off, or if the car is turned off, then alarm will be turned off. Or immediately after turning on the car, what happens is after that is it will be in the waiting state. If you turn off the car, your alarm will be turned off, or if you wear the seat belt, then also it will be turned off. Like that a finite state machine model can be written to understand the describe the that is your seat belt warning system. In this the timer will also have one finite state machine model. Initially timer will be having a three states: idle, ready and running. Initially idle, whenever you start the machine car, it will be loaded with the timer and it will be ready. um, it will be started, okay, whenever that is when you when your driver will not wear the seat belt, then it will start. Okay, it will be started, it will be run it continuously, the timer will be decremented for 5 seconds. Okay, uh, it will again go to the idle mode whenever the timer expires, means after whenever 5 seconds completes, it will be stopped, or you turn on the car, then also it will go to the idle state. So in that we have a two state machines. One is the timer state machine, another one is the your seat belt warning system itself. Okay, so this is how you can write the state machines to any embedded system which you are going to that is design. So one more example is there. So here, so finite state machine model for the tea coffee vending machine. So another example is tea coffee vending machine. So here what happens is, so tea coffee vending machine, usually whenever you go to shopping malls or any outside in hospitals, they will keep the they have a tea coffee vending machine. You have to pay 5 rupees, you have to put the 5 rupees, then it will dispatch the tea or coffee. You have to select the tea or coffee, it will dispatch the tea or coffee. So this tea or coffee vending machine state machine model can be described with these four states: state A, state B, state C and state D. So in state A, your machine will be waiting for the coin. So whenever you insert the coin, it will go to state B. In state B, it will wait for a user input. It will wait whether you want the tea or coffee. So if you select tea, okay, then it will go to state C. In state C, it dispense the tea, okay, and it will come back to state A for next coin. Or in state D, it will go to state T. If you select the coffee, it will be vending the coffee, and it will dispense the coffee to you, okay, and it will go back to state A. So if you suppose here, if the action is okay, if you have not inserted the coin, what happens is, if you press the cancel button, it will dispatch, it will give you the your 5 rupee coin back. Means you insert the coin and you will cancel the taking the tea, means it will give you back the that 5 rupee coin. Like that, the finite state machine model for tea coffee vending machine will work. So next is finite state machine model for coin operated telephone system. So one more example is coin operated telephone system. It's a very complex system. So here there are different states are there, n number of states are there. So what happens is in coin booths is, so in coin booths, so when it will wait for the continuously wait for the coin to be inserted. Then after that it will wait for the that is number to be dialed. After that it will connect. After it will start the counter. Okay, it continuously decrements for say for example 2 minutes. After time has elapsed, it will disconnect the call. Like that, this finite state machine model can be used in coin operated telephone system. So in coin operated telephone system, so what happens is, so it will be in state 1, state 1, state A will be ready state. State 1 means uh, is the line okay, means it will go, it will be in state 1. If the your that coin booth is working, then it will go to state A. Ready means it is ready to accept the coin. So then you lift the receiver. So once you lift the receiver, it will wait for the coin. Then it will insert, if you insert the coin, next you dial the number. Okay, so from state C to state D, dial the number state D. If the line is available, if the destination is available, it will go to state E. Okay, and next it will go to state F. F means call terminated because of the timeout, or you disconnect the call, means you place the receiver. Okay, after that it will go back to the state A, ready state for next coin. Okay, so another possibility is place the receiver. So what you do is, uh, So here once you lift the receiver by putting the coin, if you place the receiver, it will return the coin. Okay, similarly here in state D to state G, what happens is if the destination is not available, then it will come back to the your original state. So this state machine itself describes you what are the various steps uh, that your the various states, that state and state transition takes place in the your coin operated telephone booth. So every state will be having a, that is an event, means state transition requires an event, and the action is also described here. See, one example is action return coin. Return coin is executed if you place the receiver without dialing the number, like that. uh, every state will be having a description. So here you can see this is the process, these are the different steps. Okay, in case of your finite state machine model for coin operated telephone system, so you can go through this. The calling process is initiated by lifting receiver. After lifting uh, the telephone, the phone user needs to insert a coin. So line busy, the coin is returned on the placing the receiver back on the hook. If the line is through, okay, it will allow the 60 seconds, 45 seconds it will prompt for the another coin. So like that, if the user does not insert another rupee coin, call will be terminated. The system is ready to accept new call request when the receiver is placed back hook. The system goes to the out of order state when the line is fault. So these are the various that is possibilities or various steps that is followed by the your coin operated telephone booth. Okay, I'm left with only 2 minutes. Any doubts? Hello?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, you go through that material. Okay, the notes or textbook, you will come across that. Only that state machine you have to remember. If they ask in the exam, you have to remember that state machine and write all the steps in the state machine. Itself describes you the various that is transitions. Okay, done in the state machines. So next class we will move to the some program modeling used in embedded systems, and also we are going to study the assembly level language, C language, okay, and high level language concepts in this module. Okay, thank you very much for attending the class. So I'll
Okay,
disconnect.
sir.